And I have Jill Kinney here with me. Jill Kinney's all the way from Fort Worth, Texas, is it?
Yes,
Fort Worth,
Fort
Texas.
Worth.
We were just talking about her. She's actually the first female to join the Conley show. So I appreciate it. What do we talk about today? Today I'm going to do it a little differently. Normally I have questions, talking points, but Jill Kinney actually has a story that we're going to talk about. And I checked out your website. What is it? Badgirlscamp.com?
Badgirlcamp.com.
Badgirlcamp.com. So, okay, so when you were younger, you got sent away to quote unquote a bad girl camp, right?
That is correct.
All right. So, how old are you? But yeah, I think your profile said 14.
Oh, when I got sent away, yes, I was
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, okay. And you were there for what, 9 months, give or take?
Yes.
Okay. So what did you get sent to Bad Girls Camp for?
That is a great question. And I've honestly been trying to figure that out for 27 years now. I think I was probably just a product of a crazy family situation.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I had two older brothers, who were 7 and 5 years older than me. So I think by the time it got to me, my parents were older when they had me, and I think they were tired, so tired.
Yeah. So
Um,
you were making some trouble when you were that age and they sent you away to they couldn't handle it, or what was the deal?
yeah, I really honestly feel like growing up in the 80s and the 90s, we had a certain freedom that kids today don't have.
Right?
I grew up in a neighborhood where everyone just like did whatever they want. They kind of, went to each other's houses and didn't really have, well, we had to be home by dark.
Right.
So I had a certain freedom that I just took and ran with, honestly. So I was definitely defiant. I've
Yeah.
always been like, hello, world, here I am.
Were you
But
getting fights? What kind of
no,
trouble did they get? No?
I was getting in trouble at school a lot for talking, but nothing specific, except for, I feel like going back to before I was 14, my parents had gotten divorced.
Yeah.
There was some addiction in my family. Um, and my mom and I and my oldest brother moved out of my childhood home so my dad could move in and fix it up. So
Right.
when we moved from that house, we moved to a neighborhood not too far away, but it was a neighborhood full of kids that were also being raised by just their moms.
Yeah.
Some maybe not so savory people. I hate to say that, but we were sneaking out. I had never done drugs. I had never, you know,
So you weren't too sure why they sent you to this camp. Now you get to this camp. Is it in Texas?
yes, it's in
Okay.
Texas. It's like 2 hours from 2.5 hours from where I was.
And how'd you get there? Did you have to take a bus or did they drop you off and say good luck?
Both.
Well,
Originally my parents drove me out there. And I honestly thought that they would come right back and get me. I thought they were
yeah.
just like trying to teach me a lesson. So that whole first day that I was there, I was just like in the back of my mind thinking, "Oh, they'll be back any minute. They'll
Can
be
you
back any minute."
can you remember this day vividly, like your first time there?
Oh yes,
What was going through your
absolutely,
mind? So you get to the camp, they drop you off. Oh, they'll come pick me right back up. They'll,
absolutely.
okay. So I was on your website, and it almost is that pictures from the actual camp.
Yes,
So it looks like a military camp almost.
yes,
Yeah, you had these like I don't even know what to call, almost like a barracks, and like what you would expect a cabin to look like. Um, but it didn't look like it had much much doors. There was a lot of gaps in the walls. So you're sleeping in these like military barrack style. What was going through your mind when you had to look at your living quarters? Were you like, oh shit?
yeah. Hell yes. I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh shit," the whole time. But especially I was still in denial the first time I saw it. Those tents, which
yeah.
by the way, the campers actually built those. We
The
would have
the
to
other
rebuild
campers,
what?
the other campers, the other girls.
Yes. When I was there, I ended up building some dwellings. But back to that first time I saw the campsite itself,
Yeah,
I was like, I'm not sleeping here.
yeah.
Because I don't know if you saw on the website, there's beds. Those are donated prison beds.
I did not see that. So you have these weird looking barracks, you have donated prison beds. What was the purpose of the camp? Was it some sort of correction camp? Like after you're done being there, you get sent home and you're better now, that type of thing?
Yeah, basically, it was actually called a therapeutic camp.
Okay.
So they wanted to incorporate a lot of, you know, talking and therapy and which
Yeah. How that work for you?
um well basically like you were saying it seemed very military and that was a lot of the philosophy was ripped straight from the military playbook.
Yeah.
When one camper got in trouble, the other ones had to huddle up. So I don't know if you saw those logs. We would have to go sit, we would have to form a circle and
Yeah.
talk, work it through, talk about our feelings, and we had to stay in that huddle up until it was, until we were done. So that meant that sometimes we were there all night in a huddle
Yeah.
up.
Now, the time of you were there for about 9 months. When you get there, what time of year is this? Is it summer, spring?
It was the beginning of my ninth grade year. So it would have been the very beginning of September.
September. Okay. And now, because you're supposed to be in school at the time, was that taking place of your schooling? Were they teaching you there?
We did have school, but it was only 3 hours a day, 3 days a week.
Really?
So, yeah, I did not get my full credits for ninth grade year.
So it was not an accredited program, I guess, for the state of Texas when it comes to education.
I do think it was accredited, but I
Yeah,
didn't get enough credits.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's a typical day like? You're in this military style camp. You get in trouble. Everybody else gets in trouble. What what are they making you do?
So every day was pretty regimented. We had to wake up at, I think, 7 in the morning, um, brush our teeth, which we had one water spout that came up from the ground. We had to brush our teeth in that water spout, um, do our daily chores, which meant, sweeping the floors of the tent, cleaning the chamber pots.
Yeah.
There's,
It
and
definitely
then,
sounds like something you would have to like a military style.
yeah.
So what is it they are feeding you there?
Well, okay, so there was a chuck wagon, which was like a cafeteria. That was one of the only few indoor spaces that we had. And a lot of nights was like cod and just like giant family style spaghetti, or it was pretty gross actually.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was very proud of at the time was I lied and I said that I was allergic to fish. So
Okay.
I got to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the fish nights. So I was very proud of that. But
And
on the
they work for it.
weekends,
They just, I'm allergic to fish. Oh, she's allergic to fish. Feed her something else.
yeah, basically,
Yeah.
basically.
I don't
But
blame.
what'd you say?
I don't blame you for doing that. Fish is nasty.
It was very kind of yellowish. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Right.
on the weekends, Chuck Wagon was closed, so that meant that we had to cook our own meals. We had a space. It was like a kitchen tent. So it
Yeah.
had like a wood burning stove. And anyway, most of the weekends we ate Spam or some other form of canned meat.
I've never tried Spam. Would you recommend it to somebody that hasn't tried canned ham?
I think I'd say try it at least once in your life to see if you like it.
Yeah.
I don't want to eat Spam ever again, but
Right. I mean, it sells. It sells out. So I guess people like it. Or maybe
yeah,
it's just the camp. The camp is buying all of the Spam.
yeah, the
Um,
camp is buying all the Spam.
so you have to cook your own meals on the weekends when, what was it called? The Chuck Wagon is closed?
Yes,
The Chuck
yes.
Wagon. What was some other stuff? What were you drinking? Just water?
Yeah, at Chuck Wagon. I haven't thought about that, Austin. We had tea, Kool-Aid, ironically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Water, I
Yeah,
hope.
it sucks. I
Yeah.
A lot of people say I need to drink more water in my life. I stick to soda, but I bet you weren't getting soda there.
No, no, no.
Uh,
Oh, well, actually, so when some of the campers got their discharge date, meaning they were going to go home, we had a party and they
yeah.
gave us this big binder, and in it was like Butterfinger, Dr. Pepper, Coke, whatever. And that is so they could choose what they wanted for their discharge party, and we would all help, try to influence their decision.
Now, how many? I don't think I asked you. How many girls are there?
Well, there were three groups of girls, and there was about 20 girls in each group, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
But there was also boys. There were boys on the other side of the camp.
Okay. So it's not just bad girls camp. Is it even supposed to be like a camp for correction, or is it more just a camp so you're out of your parents' hair?
Well, for me, I felt like it was a camp that, I could get out of my parents' hair for a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Now, did it
But,
cost money?
well, that's the thing. Okay, so most people were court ordered there.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say most. A lot of kids were court ordered there for a period of time. And most kids were there 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I had a family member that worked on the inside for the camp, and that's one of the reasons why I got sent. I was able to go because of this
Yeah.
relative.
And did you see this relative like it? Well, during your you had just passed through. New.
Well, there was a Dallas office it was like the center for the camp because it was a nonprofit organization. So they had a school there and they had family therapy at the Dallas office. Well, my relative worked at the Dallas office.
Okay.
So they did come out one time while I was at camp and I saw them, yeah.
Yeah. And so you didn't receive any special treatment then because you had a relative working for the camp. You wish.
Yeah, I wish. I think actually, yes, I did. Once I got to camp and I realized that my parents weren't going to come back and get me, I feel like I'm subconsciously trying to get kicked out.
Yeah.
And at one point, the camp director brought me into his office and said, Jill, I'm doing this as a favor for your relative. You're not going to get kicked out.
Yeah. So
So
what would you do to try to get kicked out? Would you just be defiant, just talk back?
defiant. Sometimes at night we would run around the campsite. We'd climb atop of our tents.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, and not come down. And it felt very Lord of the Flies sometimes.
Yeah. Now, is this camp still around today?
That no, but the property is.
Okay.
The property's there, and actually, I got to go back. Like maybe 4 months ago.
And what was that like?
It was so cool. It was so cool because I started writing this book, and I had all these memories that came rushing back.
Right.
And that was so long ago, and so seeing the camp and feeling validated from seeing these things and being like, I was right.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're writing this book about your experiences at the camp, correct? Now,
Yes.
I consider myself a writer too. I don't have anything published, but on the show, I have had multiple authors come on the show.
I saw
And
that.
yeah, one of the things they talk about is you pick it up, you put it down. It really does take time to write a book. And that's one of the things, like, not every day you work on it. So how's writing going along for you? Are you deep into it, just starting?
I honestly did not intend to write a book.
Yeah.
I one day a couple months ago sat down and I just started writing for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose these memories. So I basically just started writing from day one and I didn't stop. I
Right.
became kind of obsessed. It was
Yeah,
weird.
that happens. You get very passionate about your work and you just type away before you know it. 10,000 words are on a page.
Exactly. And so I did finish my book. I wrote it out within 3 weeks, and now I'm just trying to refine it,
Yeah.
kind of fluff it out a little bit.
Yeah.
It was
So,
surreal.
what are some memories that you could tell viewers about that would maybe blow their mind about the camp? Like, was it really that bad, or was it a good time? I mean, I don't expect it to be a good time, but what was what was going on?
There was so many things, and I do want to preface it by saying that I do not have any animosity, for my parents, for the
Yeah.
camp, I mean, it sucked. Don't get me
Right.
wrong,
Right.
but you know, I hope that it really did help some people. I really, really do. I
After
think
it's all said and done, did it help you?
no, I
No.
it's hard to. My first instinct is to say no.
Right.
But my spiritual self wants to say maybe in some way it did that I don't even know or realize.
Yeah. Right. Well, it maybe by producing this book, maybe that's what it was all meant to be for. Maybe it was
Yeah.
supposed so later on you could retell the story. Now, your book, do you talk about like day one to
Oh yeah.
last day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's all kind of written in the perspective of my 14-year-old self.
Okay.
So,
That's cool.
um, yeah, yeah. So there were so many crazy things that happened. Earlier you asked if a bus took us out there. Well, so after being there a while, me personally, we didn't have family come visit. We did get to go home occasionally, but
Okay.
I was one of the people that didn't get to go home very much because I was
Like
acting out
for
so much.
Christmas or something, maybe you might be able to go home for a day or two. Yeah.
Yes.
So do you
And
spend Christmas in the camp?
no, I actually went home for Christmas.
Okay.
And do you want me to tell you a crazy story that happened?
Yeah.
Okay. So I came home for Christmas, and then what would happen is my parents drove me back to the Dallas office. And then from there, the bus took us back to the camp, which was a 2.5 hour bus drive. Well, the policy was they would not let they wouldn't stop the bus for any reason. They just didn't, I guess, didn't want to be liable. Well, so once we were about an hour into our bus ride, I had to go to the bathroom. And I had
Yeah.
to go to the bathroom so bad, like so bad. I cannot hold it any longer. So I made a huge scene. I screamed, whatever I did. So the
Yeah.
bus pulled over on the side of the road, but not for me to go to the bathroom, to have a huddle up.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Outside the bus?
Yeah, inside the bus. And they wanted to talk about, why are you acting out? Da, 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 da. So I took that opportunity to bolt. I
You
got off the
sir
bus.
and took off running?
No, I had to go to the bathroom. So I just like found a ditch, went down
Yeah.
into this ditch, used the bathroom, and I was walking up, and these three girls from the younger girls group, because I was in the middle. There
Yeah.
was an older, middle, and younger girls group. And so these three girls, I didn't know them, but I'd seen them around. They come running down, and they go to the bathroom. Well,
Okay.
one lights up a cigarette, and we smoke it, and we're all right, let's go back. Because it's in the middle of winter, by the way.
Right.
Starting to get cold. So we walk back up. The bus had left us.
The bus left all three of you or four of you?
The bus left all four of us.
I wonder if
On
they did
this,
it on purpose.
yeah,
Maybe.
oh, absolutely. They left us on the side of the road in the middle of the winter, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So we're all standing there on the side of the highway waiting for the bus to come back because I thought, oh, once again, they're teaching me a lesson. They'll be
Right.
back. So
They
we
didn't come
sit
back, did
there.
they?
No,
No. So what'd you do? Did you start running after the bus?
no, the bus was long gone.
Yeah.
And it was starting to get dark. It was cold. Um, so the three younger girls were like, Jill, what do we do? And I'm like, I don't know. Hell if I know. And they're
Right. And
like,
this is for cell phones, so nobody has cell phones, I take it.
exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the 90s.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm 14. And they're like, well, you're
Right.
the oldest. You got to figure it out. So I'm like, okay. And I develop a plan. I'm like, we can't go back home. We can't go to the camp. So we just start walking. We cross the 4-lane highway and we start walking in the fields with the cows, trying to find some sort of a barn to sleep in for the night. And the
Yeah.
next day I was going to go get a job, and support us like the boxcar children.
Right. So your plan was once the bus left, you were just all right. I'm on my own now.
Yep. I'm going to
Yeah.
raise us. I'm going to go get a job, at a gas station. I don't know.
Yeah.
And try to feed us and take care of us until we get older.
Yeah. So okay, so I take it that plan didn't work out for you just because how'd you get back to the camp?
Okay, well, I guess the camp did end up telling our parents and calling the
Yeah.
police. So we ended up getting picked up by a police officer. And when
How
he pulled up, huh?
how long after? Was this the next day?
No, it was like late into the morning. It was still dark outside, but the sun was starting to rise.
Yeah. Okay, so
Um,
where'd you go for that night? Were you just in a barn with the cows and
no, we never found a dwelling or like a shed or anything.
right.
Um, we just kept walking. And one girl didn't have shoes on, so we kept
Oh
giving her
no.
piggyback rides.
Yeah. Now, are you in a field or are you in the road?
Both. We kind of zigzagged. Most of the time we were in fields. Um, and then we ended up kind of coming to this small little town, and we were following a road.
Yeah.
But
And how far away do you think you were from the camp at this time?
we were like an hour and a half away.
So walking was out of the question.
Yeah, we didn't want to go back anyway. I mean, they
Right.
had left us.
Yeah. So cop pulls up. He says, "Hey, you girls, you need to get in the car and come on." Is that what happened?
No, he pulled over and he was like, "Are you the girls that ran away from that bad girl camp?"
Yeah.
And I was like, no, sir. These are my sisters. We're out for a walk." And he looked at the girl with no shoes on. He was like, yeah. He
Right.
knew
It's just one officer?
yes. And he was young. I don't know why that sticks out in my mind, but finally we gave up. We got in the car. The girls sat in the back, the younger girls. I was in the front with the officer. And they were just like, "Have you seen a dead body?"
Asking all these questions.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then he starts with us. "Why are you at this camp? What kind of camp is it? What do you do? What? Why did they leave you?" It
Yeah.
was so surreal.
So
So
you get back to does the officer take you right back to the camp?
no, he took us to this little tiny town jail. It
Yeah.
had one jail cell, like in Andy Griffith.
Yeah, yep.
There was like a drunk guy in the cell, and we walk in, and it was like open concept. So there
Right.
were other officers, and they had heard about us, and they all just looked at us like we were famous. It was crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Probably well, not for nothing. You were probably considered missing children at that point.
Yes. Well, I think that the word that was out was that we were runaways.
Runaways, okay. Yeah.
So they gave us peanut butter and jelly sandwich, my favorite.
Yeah.
They called our parents, and I wasn't the first to get picked up, but I wasn't the last. My dad came in, and I honestly didn't think I'd ever see my dad again that night. I didn't think I'd ever see my family again, but instead, I never saw those 3 girls again because
No?
no, because when my dad picked me up, he brought me home, but the next morning he brought me right back to camp.
And were you fighting like hell, like fighting with them, saying, "I don't want to go back, I don't want to go back"?
I think at that point I was so defeated. I
Yeah.
was so defeated. I felt abandoned by the camp, by my family. But when I got back and learned that those 3 girls' parents were pissed, as they should be, that the bus left us, they
Yeah.
didn't go back. I was just beside myself. I was enraged.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So your dad takes you back the next day after the bus leaves you. Uh, what does the camp say to you? Do they scold you for not being back on the bus?
No, I think everyone was completely freaked out.
Yeah.
The bus driver left us. The bus driver did write down the mile marker, though. So my dad had gone out there and looked for me and gone into the woods around the mile marker, screaming my name.
Right. Yeah. So, because I mean, I've never been to Texas, but I imagine that leaving three young girls, teenagers, it can be very dangerous for those girls. I mean, anybody could have came along and picked you guys up.
We were very lucky. I mean,
Yeah.
and even at the time, I was like, we have to get off the highway. We're going to get killed. We have to get off the highway.
Yeah.
And so we kind of, once we crossed that 4-lane highway, we were trying to blend in with the scenery,
Yeah. Right. Because you didn't want to be spotted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So how long into this was you're there for 9 months total? Is this like your third month in and you get left behind?
No, this was okay. So I went in September, and that was actually after Christmas. I want to say that was January.
January. So yeah. So I mean, a Texas winter is a little different than a New York winter. So is it
Yes.
still cold? What's the temperature like?
Well, actually, I was going to say that. Okay, so you heard about our big power outage this last winter. I don't know. Texas
I
was
don't think
like,
I.
yeah,
What?
it's so weird. Some years it's like 80 degrees on winter. I mean, on Christmas. This year, but I mean, some years are really, really cold. This year happened to be very, very cold. So
Right.
it was cold. It was
Were
cold.
you? What are you wearing?
What'd you say?
What were you wearing? Were you wearing like a hoodie, a sweatshirt?
I was wearing a thermal, but
Yeah.
and it was the 90s and it was grunge, which was cool because I was out in the woods. I kind
Yeah.
of fit in with the style, but I had a thermal on and a flannel that I'd given to another girl because we didn't have our stuff with us. We didn't have our coats. One girl didn't have her shoes on.
Right.
So, because we thought we were just going to get back on the bus.
Yeah. Right. So you said that you think the bus left you guys there on purpose
Oh, it 100% did.
to teach you guys a lesson. So did you ever get back off the bus after that?
No.
No. Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah. So, okay. So
Well,
you get to camp.
I don't know if I went home very much after that until I finally did go home.
Yeah, you were released by the camp. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, is there any more memories that really stood out for you that you would like to share with people about the camp?
There's so many. I really hope that people get a chance to read the book once it does come out. There's so many crazy stories, I feel like.
Do you have a release date for the book yet?
No, I'm actually in the process of querying. I don't know if you know much about, that whole process, but.
So actually, I don't, but I do know this. When you publish a book, you do have an editor. And here's what some people said to me about writing a book. The problem is with working with a company who edits your book is you might get a different product than what you first wrote. They may take some things out. They may even add some things. So having an editor for your book, you kind of got to work with them and ensure that you get what you want out of your product. Have you worked with an editor yet?
No, I have not. I haven't.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's some like self-publishing companies where you could, especially with Amazon nowadays.
Yeah.
But it's expensive to publish a book, especially if you're funding it yourself. Are you funding it yourself?
So far, yes. I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't really, aside from a website, I haven't really. It hasn't been very much out of pocket.
right.
Um,
Yeah. And you're finished with the book besides like editing?
I am. I
Yeah.
am finished.
Okay.
There's a
So
few little things I want to tweak here and there, but for the most part, yeah. I wrote the major bones of the book.
what was that?
I wrote the major bones of the
Oh,
book.
I see. Yeah. Okay. And it's titled Bad Girl Camp by
Yes.
Jill Kinney, correct?
Yes. Hey, I have
Oh.
to show you something real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so remember I told you that I went back out there a few months ago?
Yeah.
Well, one of the camp counselors that was there when I was actually just serendipitously went back to that property to try to make it more of like a camp experience for underprivileged youth just for the weekend.
Right.
But anyway, he was cool enough to show me around, and he gave me the very last chamber pot.
What is that? So that's a chamber pot, but what is that used for?
Well, can you guess?
Is it like big spaghetti, or is it what you had to go to the bathroom in?
It's what we had to go to the bathroom in.
Oh man, and who would clean that out?
We did.
You did?
Yeah.
Was that actually? Oh, that was actually used?
Yes.
Ew. Well, I guess. So you might have taken a pee in that back in the day.
When he gave it to me, I acted like I won the lottery. I was like, "Oh, thank you so much."
Yeah, and it's a cool. It's a, if you will, it's like a relic of your past. I can appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a collector of things too. So and it's all about memory behind it.
Yeah.
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 Well, I really so a lot of times I have interviews about a half hour just to kind of so the viewers don't get restless, if you will. Sometimes they're a little longer. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up in a minute. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap up this conversation?
You guys need to follow the Conley show.
Thank you. I appreciate the shout out. Yeah, I got like I'm actually moving to Indianapolis at the end of this month.
Oh, you are? Cool.
My dad lives down there, and one of the things we're doing is we're going to actually invest into like a studio, invest into equipment, so I could start editing, producing the show a little more. And not only am I going to have interviews, but I'm also going to do like a weekly episode just talking about the headlines, so like around the world news, and see where it goes. You don't do a podcast because you think you're going to become famous, but you do a podcast because you enjoy it. Just kind of
Exactly.
you hope that your book takes off, but you write it because you enjoy the experience of writing it.
Exactly.
Jill?
Yeah, I did it to heal, really.
Yeah.
And because I wanted my family to they had never heard these stories.
No?
Ever. No.
They didn't even ask like, hey, how was camp?
I mean, I'm sure they did, but they'd never heard these specific stories before, aside from the bus thing.
Yeah. Right.
So
that makes sense. But yeah, well, hopefully they read the book and they check it out.
yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Jill.
Jill.
Austin, I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you taking the time. And until next time, stay curious. Bye, Jill.
Bye.